Is it possible that a single decision can determine your eternal destiny? Life is full of decisions. From the time we wake up until the time we go to bed, we make hundreds of them, some big, some small. But have you ever considered that one of those decisions could have eternal consequences? Maybe you think that to get to heaven it's enough to be a good person, to meet certain standards, or just to live a decent life. But what if that's not the case? What if you're overlooking something crucial? Many live thinking that small actions, seemingly insignificant decisions, have no impact on their eternal destiny. We think, God knows my heart, that's enough, or nobody's perfect, God understands. And while there is some truth in that, there is also a very dangerous error in this way of thinking. The Bible warns us that there is one specific mistake that can separate us from eternal life with God. It's not something that many people discuss, but it is real and can be devastating if we don't face it in time. Today I want to talk to you about that one mistake, that one decision that can determine your eternal destiny. But not only that, I will also show you how you can avoid it and make sure your relationship with God is genuine, solid, and based on what is right. This is not a message to instill fear in you, but to open your eyes to a truth that will transform your life. Are you ready to discover it? Personal connection, a thought-provoking story. To understand the importance of this crucial mistake, let me tell you the story of Daniel. Daniel was a respected man in his community. He was always willing to help others, participated in charitable activities, attended church regularly, and apparently led a blameless life. To those who knew him, Daniel was the perfect example of what it meant to be a good Christian. From a young age, Daniel had learned that being a good person and doing what was right was what pleased God. He strove to keep the commandments, avoided bad company, and always did his best to be a loving husband, a present father, and a loyal friend. However, there was something not right in Daniel's heart, something he himself did not see. One day during a church service, the pastor spoke about the personal relationship with God, and how it is not enough to meet external standards or participate in religious rituals to ensure salvation. As the pastor spoke, Daniel began to feel uneasy. There was something in those words that resonated deeply within him. After the service, Daniel decided to talk to the pastor. With sincerity, he asked him, "Pastor, I've been doing what I think is right all my life, but today I realized that maybe I've been leaving something important out. What does it really mean to have a personal relationship with God?" The pastor wisely replied, "Daniel, everything you do is admirable. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you talked to God not to ask for something, but to get to know Him better? When was the last time you stopped to listen to His voice, instead of just doing your homework?" Daniel was silent. The truth was that, although he had always fulfilled his religious responsibilities, he had never thought of his relationship with God as personal. For him, his faith had become a to-do list, attending church, praying before meals, and doing good deeds. But all this he did more out of habit than out of genuine love for God. Before we delve further into this content, I kindly ask you to show your support by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this essential message. The revelation, losing sight of the essential. It was at that moment, when Daniel was confronted with this question, that something important was revealed. What was it that had really been missing in his life, despite his good efforts? This conversation marked a before and after in Daniel's life. For the first time, he understood that his biggest mistake had not been what he was doing, but why he was doing it. He realized that he had been relying more on his own actions than on God's grace. Although his intentions were good, his heart was not fully surrendered to Christ. Daniel's story reminds us that no matter how right our lives appear from the outside, if our relationship with God is not authentic, we are in danger of making the biggest mistake of all, trusting in our works rather than in the sacrifice of Jesus. Why does this happen to us? Now, why do we make this common mistake? Why is it so easy to trust in what we do instead of what Jesus has already done for us? It is easy to fall into this error because as human beings we tend to measure everything with visible parameters. We believe that if we do good, behave in a certain way and avoid evil, then we are on the right path. However, the Bible teaches us that our works alone will never be enough to achieve salvation. Isaiah 64 verses 6 states, "We are all of us as an unclean thing, and all our righteousnesses are as filthy rags." This does not mean that doing good is irrelevant, but that our actions cannot substitute for God's grace. Often, like Daniel, many people confuse religion with relationship. They put all their trust in the things they do, but neglect the most important thing, their personal connection with the Lord. A personal reflection. Perhaps, listening to Daniel's story, you've realized that you too may be falling into the same mistake. But the real question is, how can we correct it and get back to what really matters? Perhaps you identify with Daniel. Maybe you've spent years striving to be a good person, to do what you think is right. You've been generous, you've avoided sin, and you've made sure you didn't cause anyone harm. All of that is valuable, but let me ask you, what about your relationship with God? Do you talk to Him as a close friend? Do you trust Him completely, not just your good deeds? We are not alone in this challenge. Even the great heroes of the faith faced times when they lost sight of the essentials. In Luke 10 verses 38 to 42, we read about Martha and Mary, two sisters who welcomed Jesus into their home. While Martha was busy with chores, Mary sat at Jesus' feet to listen to him. Martha, frustrated, asked Jesus to tell Mary to help her. But Jesus replied, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but only one thing is necessary, and Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her." Martha was doing nothing wrong. She was serving, doing good things. But Jesus pointed out that Mary had chosen the most important thing, to be close to Him. Empathy. No one is perfect. It is important to remember that no one is exempt from making mistakes. We are all human, and we have all, at some point, failed. We have all, at some point, put our priorities in the wrong place. But the beauty of the gospel is that our weakness is never an obstacle to God's grace, and it's that perfection is not something we can achieve on our own. But here's the good news. It's not about being perfect, it's about being sincere. It's about recognizing our need for God and surrendering our hearts completely to Him. God is not looking for perfect people. He is looking for willing hearts. Hearts that love Him, that trust Him, and that understand that, at the end of the day, our salvation does not depend on what we do, but on what He has already done for us on the cross. A call to reflection. Today is the perfect day to stop and reflect. Are we really building our lives around a genuine relationship with God, or are we relying on our own strength? Today I want to invite you to reflect. It doesn't matter how many good things you have done or how busy your life is with responsibilities. What really matters is your relationship with God. He wants to know you. He wants you to talk to Him, to give Him your burdens, and to trust Him with all your heart. Daniel's story teaches us that it is never too late to correct our course. You can start today. You can choose to stop, examine your heart, and ask yourself, am I living to please God or simply to meet external expectations? Remember, God does not measure our worth by our actions, but by our willingness to approach Him with a humble and sincere heart. Thank you for joining me today on Mastery and Faith. If you found this discussion helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. Here are 2 videos that will surely interest you. Click on any of them to go deeper into these topics and strengthen your spiritual life. Let's continue searching together for wisdom, peace, and understanding. God bless you, and see you next time.